You think silence means weakness. You think the quiet ones are broken. You think just because someone isn't loud, they're not dangerous. That's your first mistake. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy. It means they're thinking, planning, evolving. While you're talking, they're building. Monsters aren't born loud. They're made in rooms nobody sees, forged in moments nobody claps for, shaped by hits nobody heard. Every time you were hurt and said nothing, you were building. Every time they left you out and you stayed focused, you were building. Every time they mocked you, ignored you, doubted you, you didn't break. You stacked it. You absorbed it. You turned every wound into a blueprint. Because silence isn't empty. It's loaded. It's preparation. It's focus. It's control. While they were laughing, you were mastering your mind. While they were boasting, you were bulletproofing your heart. While they were shouting, you were stacking discipline. Now they don't recognize you. Now you walk different. Now you speak less, move more. Now you show up with a presence they can't explain. That's what silence does. It doesn't just build monsters. It builds legends. It builds people who don't need to be understood. They need to be watched, feared, studied. They thought you disappeared, but you just disconnected. You weren't hiding. You were harnessing. You were reprogramming everything they tried to break. Now you're untouchable. Now they can't shake you. Now they feel it. The heavy silence that surrounds you. The kind of silence that warns, I don't need to talk. I'm here to take. They mocked your silence. They laughed at your quiet. But they never understood what you were doing in that dark. You weren't hurting. You were honing. You weren't cracking. You were calculating. You weren't lost. You were locked in. Silence taught you what pain never could. It taught you to stop explaining, to stop chasing, to stop begging for what you can build yourself. Silence is where you found your power, when no one checked on you, when no one believed in you, when you sat in a room full of noise and said nothing, but learned everything. Now you don't move like them. You move different. You walk into rooms without a word, and people feel you. Feel the pressure. Feel the control. Feel the discipline that only comes from being forged in silence. Because here's the truth. They make noise to compensate for weakness. You make moves in silence because you're built. You don't need to be seen. You need to be effective. Silence built you. While they chose distraction, you chose development. While they chose comfort, you chose character. While they looked for validation, you looked inward and created something unmatched. And now you're a problem. Not loud, not arrogant, just consistent, disciplined, undeniable. They say you've changed. You did. You became the version of you that no longer needs to shout, because now everything you do speaks for itself. Your presence is the statement. Your work is the respect. Your silence, that's the warning. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them talk while you build. Because the ones who move in silence are the ones who end up owning everything. They can't track you because you don't move with noise. You don't announce. You execute. You don't need crowds. You need results. You don't need praise. You need purpose. You trained yourself in isolation. While they needed a tribe to feel validated, you sat with your pain and sharpened it. Turned it into strategy. Turned it into focus. Turned it into edge. Silence gave you vision. Vision gave you control. Control gave you power. Now you see through people, through words, through distractions. You speak less because you see more. You react less because you understand more. And that makes you dangerous, because people can't read what you don't reveal. They don't know your next move. They don't know what drives you. They don't know if you're building or waiting to strike. And that's the point. Silence gave you that advantage. The ability to move without exposure. To rise without interference, to lead without asking for it. You don't need to prove anything. Your results do that. You don't need to defend yourself. Your presence does that. You don't need to respond to doubt. Your discipline makes sure they never question you twice. Silence builds monsters, but it also builds mastery. And you mastered yourself, your emotions, your impulses, your reactions. You took everything that used to break you and built walls with it. Now you're untiltable. Unreactive, unshakable. You became what they never saw coming because you never needed to announce it. Let them talk, let them guess, let them keep thinking you're quiet, because quiet isn't weak, it's coming. You didn't choose silence to hide. You chose it to evolve, to shed who you were, to study everything that tried to break you. Silence gave you pattern recognition. Now you see the fake instantly. You see the weakness in arrogance. You see the fear behind every loud lie, and you stay quiet because you don't argue with cowards. You don't explain your value. You just move. That's the difference. They need to be heard. You need to be effective. Every time you chose silence, you were training your reactions. Every time you held back, you were building your temperance. Every time you kept moving without praise, you were becoming something permanent. Now your silence isn't a weapon, it's a warning. It means you're watching, means you're done talking, means the next time you move, they won't be able to stop it. They can't anticipate what they can't see. And you don't telegraph, you don't announce comebacks, you just rise, without noise, without permission, without an ounce of hesitation. Silence built you so cleanly, they still don't know what you've become. They think you're healing. You're not healing. You're preparing. You're not broken. You're becoming. And the next time they hear your name, it won't be from you. It'll be from the results, the impact, the shift you left behind. You don't need to say a word. The discipline speaks louder. The presence speaks louder. The wins speak loudest. And when they try to reconnect, try to understand, try to get close again, all they'll find is that same silence. But this time, it won't be building a monster. It will be protecting one. You don't owe anyone a version of you they can understand. You don't owe anyone the story of how you survived. You don't owe them your process. You owe yourself results. The monster they see now is just the result of everything you endured quietly. Every insult you didn't respond to. Every loss you took with grit. Every moment you were ignored, overlooked, or underestimated. Silence built you. But it also freed you from the need to be liked, freed you from explaining your standards, freed you from the weight of small talk and small people. Now, you live different. You move like you've been through it, because you have. You walk like you've carried more than they could imagine, because you did. And you're still here, stronger, sharper, colder, clearer. You don't need to be seen to be significant. You don't need to be loud to be legendary. You don't need to be loved to be limitless. You need focus. You need pressure. You need pain. And you need silence. Because it's not the noise that builds power. It's the silence that forges it. It's in the hours you spend alone, the work you do with no audience, the discipline you stack when no one is watching. That's where you became this. This version that doesn't flinch, that doesn't doubt, that doesn't look back. They thought you were gone. You weren't. You were just quiet. And in that quiet, you built a monster. Now they don't hear from you, they hear about you. And that's how you win. They thought your silence meant you lost. It meant you were loading. It meant you were evolving. It meant a monster was being built behind closed doors. Subscribe if you're building in silence. Comment, they'll hear my results if you've stopped explaining yourself. Turn on notifications, because this war isn't over. This is Dark Force. And you're built in silence, forged to dominate.